Flight Boss, bitch. You know, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind of an Terry's Moon. Flight Boss, Archangel Uriel. And I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. I'm going to do a little bit explaining for people because, you know, I kind of see where a lot of religious people get the wrong idea about the perception of God or having a concept of God. See, and religious people and people who are lost in religion, it's easy for them to get lost into the physical, and then they become scared to die, and then they become and then they start to praise things based upon not wanting to die. So they always want to go to another physical place, but just don't want to share the physical pain. So, you know, they get scared. And, you know, getting lost in the physical also, it'll make people think that everything is one when it's not. Just the simple fact that you have the concept of things being separate let you know that there's a form of separateness. Now, there would be no such thing as that if everything was one. So just for the simple fact that there's separation that exists, and let you know that things are separate. And here's the thing that people, here's the main thing that people can't perceive, but this is where they get it fucked up, and the reason why religion and things of like that is the way it is now. Because people thinking that everything came from something, everything came from one thing, but everything is truly one in itself. Everything is one thing in itself. So when we look at God and things of that nature, we have to understand that God is not becoming, God is creating. See, when you have religious texts and things of that nature, it'll have you thinking that all things came from one thing, but then it'll make you think that all things became these things. Like, it'll make you think that one thing became all these things. No, one thing didn't become all these things. One thing created a thing, and then that created a thing, and that created a thing. Everything is one in itself. You see what I'm saying? So we have a source, but this is how, for an example, you don't become your thoughts. You don't become your thoughts. Now, you can create what you're thinking based upon the friction that you're doing in this realm of reality. You could create and utilize things to create what you're thinking, but you don't actually become your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts? You don't become that. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you want to get lost into metaphysics and philosophy, you could start to say things like, nah, whatever I'm thinking, I become that. This is getting back lost into religion and philosophy. All that is good science. But we talk about the reality of something. You don't become the thing, fuck what you're actually thinking. That actual thing itself, you don't become that. That is a separate entity. You see what I'm saying? You don't become that. You create that. So you need to correlate that with God also. God is not becoming these things. God created these things. This is where you can get. This is where the concept even came from. Something could not be a part of something. See, that wouldn't even exist if it didn't play out in the way that I'm explaining it. You wouldn't have no, if it didn't exist, you wouldn't have no idea or thought of something being disconnected or something being separate of something or something not being a part of something. You wouldn't have that idea. So the simple fact that you lessen your power and cause something an illusion and see, this is this is where man is lost. Man and woman is lost in the physical, and they're trying to come up with creative ways to fulfill their lost in the physicalness. You see what I'm saying? See, this is when you see a person who perceive things separate, but they will explain it to you as if it's one or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of people who think the soul and the body is one. You got a lot of people who think something is you got a lot of people who think something is becoming, something is condensing into something. No. Listen, I don't care what your Bible or religion taught you. You need to throw that away. Throw all that shit away. what you actually see in reality every day is two things coming together to create another thing. You don't see something becoming. You see what I'm saying? So you see what I'm saying? You don't see that. What is, like, I don't understand what is you. I never seen something become. Always seen something get created. You see what I'm saying? So it takes two of something to create something else. Now when we get to God and the overall parameter, the only thing God is bouncing back with is a parameter. A wall that's not perceived as a wall. An area that's not perceived as an area yet. A location that's not perceived as a location yet. So when the things within that parameter is what helps extend that parameter. So this is how God is able to take a shape and form through you to extend the parameter, because God have no shape and form. That is the overall. That is like the overall one. And through these thoughts and imagination or extensions and things of that nature, things get created. Then out of that creation bounced back with the overall parameter. Then that creates something else, which that's what y'all would think is an opposite or something, but it's truly not. It's something in its own self. And then this is where you get the concept of something having a piece of something. Something always has a piece of something, but something is never the totality of something, because it's always a mixture and blend. This is why you have DNA and you are a mixture and blend. Now, if something was becoming something, it would be it at its purest nature, just becoming a bunch of different shit. But you can never become something without a mixture. This is why niggas who cook dope have to add baking soda. This is why people who do this have to add shit. It's common sense. So when we look at things as being separate, it's because they are separate. But in that separate world itself, it's one. And everything that come out of that world is from that world. But it's a bunch of separate things that get spread out of that world. This is why one woman can have multiple kids. Multiple different worlds. But you can't say one of the kids is the mother. No, that kid is its own fucking entity. You see what I'm saying? So y'all need to quit attaching things to God that God ain't got nothing to do with. Because a lot of these things that y'all attaching to and try to say is one, God ain't got nothing to do with that shit. And then y'all try to tie God to that shit, into y'all little fantasy worlds and shit like that. And God don't want to be a part of that. A lot of that shit that y'all consistence to is ruled by lower gods. And gods, the physical gods who are lost in the physical, things you got to do a lot of history about. God, I don't talk about, you ain't got to do no history about that. Ain't no fucking history. God is always here now in the present. Why the fuck do I got to go to a history or old civilization to learn about, God always showed me that God was in front of my face every day. God ain't never tell me to go in no history or past. So when I do go back to the history and past, that's why I talk about it the way I talk about it. Y'all go to my old videos and shit like, listen to the way he talking about my aunt. He don't even know what he talking about. Listen to the way he talking about the Numa Elite. She don't even know what he talking about. Look at the way he talking about Egypt and Greek. He don't even know what he talking about. You goddamn right. Because God in the present did not tell me to go back in that shit. And then when y'all really decipher what y'all talking about, y'all gonna go back to my videos and be like, well, goddamn. This guy did know what he was talking about. He just wasn't lost in all the ways that everybody else came up with perceptions about it. I had the purest perception of it because I didn't grow up in it, and when I look back at it, I ain't cling on to it. I looked at it for what the fuck it was, because God was always in the present, right now. God wasn't lost in the past, and I had to search through man laws and language through the past to find and go through a bunch of middlemans. Nah, God was right here, like, you know what, I'm right here. I'm right here. Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn air.